Hey everybody, welcome into another episode of the Create Smarter podcast. I'm your host for this episode, Connor Clarity, and today I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, my fellow beardman, Kyle. What's up, buddy?
Good, Connor. How you doing?
Doing well and looking better.
Looking great.
Looking great.
Love the hat on you.
Thank
Sitting
you.
right.
It's sitting right. It's comfortable. I wear this every day. Kyle and I are here to kind of go over a project we just did together. That was really, really cool. We were able to go, travel a little bit, experience new things, and see a lot of Kyle's old buddies. So, Kyle, if you don't mind, just take it away and kind of tell us a little bit about the Broker Carrier Summit.
Yeah, this was a cool one. And we talk a lot about partnering with our clients and trying to be a partner when it comes to the solutions we create. And this is one that we really, I think, exemplified kind of that approach. So Broker Carrier Summit is a small but growing summit. And by small, I mean they're at like 500 people attendees now. So
it's small to us, but I mean, it was pretty big.
It's like, I think the fourth iteration, if I remember correctly, or we might be coming up on the fourth. But they bring together two people in logistics industries, two types. So carriers or truckers, it's the guys that get all their stuff, right. They move the stuff like that. The brokers are a necessary part of the logistics industry. They're the ones that help kind of companies find carriers. Yeah. They sit in the middle because most companies can't dedicate the amount of people required to kind of check all that stuff. Brokers kind of help to keep everything moving and keep the supply chain at a cost that works. They butt heads a lot, carriers and brokers. So the summit kind of brings them together to have kind of open dialogue, great conversations. And honestly, it gets them to kind of put a face to each other. Because a lot of times it's all done via phone or email and stuff like that. So there's a bad blood, Taylor Swift shout out, that happens from time to time. So it's a cool community that they've built. So the core team's kind of been growing this. It's been a lot of online movement, a lot of stuff. If you're in trucker talk or any of those things, you will kind of hear about like double brokering, all these bad things. So they've been building the summit up recently. So it's gone from like a summit in like Tampa, Florida, in a smaller room, into what we were doing, where we got brought on, which was Kansas City. So we were in the Kansas City.
Big KC, baby.
Big KC. Only there for Taylor, as every shirt. Like the amount that they talked about just being here for Taylor Swift. I was like, I don't think she lives here,
guys. Travis and Taylor, And ironically, they were at Coachella when we were there anyways, so no sightings.
We just
Hold
missed
your
out.
email,
We did not see her. But yeah, so they approached us back in December. This conference was going to be in April. Yeah. So they approached us talking about, hey, what can you do? And actually, they kind of approached me in October. They're dealing with a really bad stream. Yeah. And they're like, the next one we want to make sure that's something. So they're like, this 5-tool do that. Some of the people I've known for a while now, we've had kind of fun conversations. I used to work as a marketer in logistics, so I got to meet a couple of these guys before I came over to 5-tool. Yeah. So that was sort of where my connection came in. But they approached and they're like, hey, so we've done stuff with the kind of hotel-provided AV, and usually what's happening is the hotel-provided AV is very much you asked for this equipment, we brought this equipment, we're going to do what you asked for, but like if you need changes, if you want to kind of feel the vibe of the room and how do we kind of make updates and, oh no, this wasn't done right and we need to do all these changes, they were running into issues. And a lot of it was like they weren't listening to what Broker Carrier was trying to provide. And for a summit that's trying to create a community and create this like positive experience when they're walking out, so more and more people are like, oh, I got to get my other brokers, I got to get my other carriers here, I got to bring people. You want to make it worth their time. And stuff like simple AV things where like I couldn't hear in the back of the house, or like I can't see anything. And this is weird because like it's 15 minutes where a guy's sitting at a laptop clicking something and I can see on the screen that he has no idea where the hell this PowerPoint's located. Those were issues they were running into. So they, again, approached us to say, like, hey, how do we make our experience better? What can we do to kind of, like, update that stuff?
Yeah, and I kind of look at this as maybe 3 phases, right? You have the pre-production where they reached out, and there was a lot of planning involved. I mean, Kyle's hair was gray for a couple months, and then you get into the actual, day of, but the actual conference, which a lot of, it's a lot of running around, a lot of hats being worn, and then now we're kind of in the post-production. So first of all, I just want to say, earlier you stated, looking at it more of a partnership. Just for people who don't really know, that's a big thing at 5-tool. Do you mind just talking a little bit about what it means to be a partner?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times in video production, in AV too, it's a transactional experience. A lot of the invoices are like, here's the exact equipment that you're getting rented, and here's the things that we're going to give to you.
Yeah, these are our services. This is the equipment. After that,
Right.
you know,
And it
pay
comes
us.
from like traditionally that's kind of how it worked, right? Whoever was running this stuff, like I'm an event planner. I do events. That's my
Exactly.
job. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, okay, cool. I know I'm not getting marked up on stuff. However, as we continue to build communities and as the internet helps to kind of create this stuff and there's a desire to bring faces together, you're getting more and more of individuals like, hey, I want to do this. And I want to do it in a way that makes sense. How do I handle all this stuff? And that's where a partnership and how we kind of approach it comes in. We don't do it as transactional. It really is like bringing in a producer that's going to be there the entire time, that's meeting with you weekly to kind of work through the updates because agendas update. PowerPoints don't get in. Or when they do come in, they got 15 videos that you're like, wait a second, I said no this.
Or a QR code. And it's like, someone's got to do that.
Right. And that's really what it is. It's us addressing, and that's what we do from the first call. It's kind of understanding the needs, understanding their wants, understanding what they're trying to achieve, and then coming at it from a way that makes sense for their budget, the boat. As Phil loves to talk about all the time, budget, objective, audience, timeline. Of how do you approach all this stuff? And that's where we kind of really have that conversation. So that's why we do our weekly meetings. That's why we kind of check in and we walk through some stuff. And a lot of times we deal with like, hey, this is my first time doing this, or like, how do I make sure this works? And that's where we try to be a partner with it. It's not like, oh, you're on the clock, like billable hours. Yeah, sure, I'll walk a Zoom call through that because I can charge for this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not how we work. We really are about achieving the goal. We want to make sure that you are creating the best possible experience for all your attendees in the room. We also know some stuff about how do we record, how do we capture, how do we prepare you for other stuff that you potentially weren't thinking about. And that's where, like, as a partner, that's what we're thinking. We're not just sitting there and be like, well, you hired us to do this one thing. We're trying to think about what else you're trying to achieve. Hey, we could possibly do this. And here's what the budget is. So maybe it's not in it for this one, but here's what that cost could be and how you could achieve this stuff.
Yeah, just a heads up just for next time maybe or whatever. And a lot of it too is, I think we care about the event. No one in KC knows that 5 tools in the back house, but we want the client to have the best event they can have.
Right.
So that's exactly where the partnership comes in. And talking about that, maybe a lot of people that, maybe something a lot of people wouldn't consider is how much pre-production goes into something like that. You could call up a production team from Boston and say, hey, we're doing an event in Kansas City, bring some of your guys and your equipment and go film us. That's easy, but why don't you tell us a little bit about both the planning for the event and also working with the team that was going to be on site?
Yeah. I mean, as you know, as in video production, AV, all this fun stuff, you don't want surprises. There's always going to be surprises.
Of course, yeah. But how do you prepare yourself for the surprises?
You want to be prepared to know what's going to happen. Be prepared for be understanding of what the unknowns are.
Yeah.
And then sort of formulate game plans of what you can do to attract these things attack these things that you don't know.
Right.
So that's where really the pre-planning matters. It's meeting with the client, talking about kind of the overall stage layout, providing we were using software to kind of say, like, this is what it's going to look like. And the cool software is 3D, so we could put them in their room and see what it was.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's meeting with the hotel, making sure that we understand exactly the logistics of everything and shipping. A lot of these hotels, they have built-in AV. So a lot of times to them, it's like, oh, we just do this. Like, why are you doing this? Right. You're there to answer. And like, what, as the partner, it's, I know what I know. So I'm going to take, you don't, as the event planner, as the organizer, you don't need to understand that stuff.
Right.
I understand what your needs are. I'm here to like assist you. I'm here to make sure that you are getting exactly what you want from your boat in a way that's making it make sense. Or I'm here to kind of help explain what they're trying to say to you from time to time.
Carefully guide you away from something that they might be trying to dupe you with. But and then I just remember the numerous Zoom calls. Like you said, the weekly meetings. I mean, as maybe mundane as they look, it's very helpful because things can change. I mean, how many October to now is so many months, but things might change on the fly and say, oh shoot, I got to update you real quick. And what's better than an email is sitting down, walking through it, making sure everything since our last call has been updated and.
They're just weekly stand-ups, too. Yeah. These aren't hour-and-a-half meetings where you walk through everything. Sure, you have your kind of final run a show, but you're building a schedule. You're building all that stuff out to say, like, okay, cool. I'm going to let you have all your speakers come to the stage. They're going to get an experience of what that's like at this time on this thing. Yeah. Does that work? It's just open, honest, transparent communication. That's really the big thing about those weekly meetings is to make sure that it's not, oh, by the way, I know we're on site and, like, you got to have all this stuff and we didn't tell you about all of it. It really is just trying to prepare you for what you're walking into so you can make sure that all the right stuff's there to help eliminate change orders, to help try to eliminate as much extra cost that will come. I mean, all events are going to have surprises, right? It's rare that like unless you're like spending a crazy amount, it's really tricky to make sure that like something came up that you didn't understand.
Exactly. That's
like the one speaker didn't communicate that they're doing a juggling act and they need to make sure they have 12 feet of stage.
Of course.
You're standing on like, I was doing this much stage. What do you mean you need that? So that's part of like the things. And then again, back to the partnership, a lot of it is anticipating needs in a way that like,
of course.
I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're thinking about confidence monitors or way that someone can hear, or even having monitors on stage for feedback and whatnot.
Exactly. Right.
Things like that. That's kind of what went into those weekly meetings.
Yeah, of course. And you know, we can now say, okay, those are definitely worth it. They made a very successful event. Talking about the event itself, when we flew down there, you know, to my knowledge, and please correct me if I'm wrong, our main responsibilities were really that main keynote room where we had a stage, you know, lights, cameras, a lot of action. It was great. And then there were also some breakout rooms involved too.
Yeah. So that was what we set up. They stepped it up. They were in, I think it was 116 lengthwise. It was like maybe 60 feet or something like that widthwise.
Wow.
And then it was essentially a ballroom. Usually they bring up air walls.
Yep.
They took them all down. It was three little rooms kind of packed together. So it's decent sized little space.
Pretty good space.
We brought 2 projectors. Each were about 18 feet. We placed them on the sides of the screens. We did a little iMag. So that's kind of where you came in. You were helping me switch. So we had 2 cameras kind of dead center back of house a little bit just to be able to capture. Essentially, the client's goal was, I want to make sure that anyone anywhere in this room can hear what's happening on stage.
Yep.
And then if it's a panel conversation or something that like it doesn't require a PowerPoint presentation, I want them to be able to see who's on stage.
Yeah.
And that's really what we did. They didn't want, or right now at this point in time, their budget wasn't ready for some of the more dynamic aspects that a stage show can have, like dynamic lighting and changing and stuff like that. So a lot of it was like, hey, we just need pipe and drape. We want to kind of like have the back kind of blocked off, but we want it to look good.
Yeah.
So stuff like our tube lights, like things that we're using here, was like a way that we were doing some stage wash without being crazy.
Yeah.
We had very simple lighting.
Literally.
I've been running the lighting on my phone
Yeah.
because that's like you set it up for me, but like very simple. Dim the stuff when videos are playing on the screen so people can see it.
Yep.
House lighting was kind of what we were using mainly, kind of play with that a little bit. But yeah, a really simple setup. I probably filled that room with speakers too much, but at the same point, it was the client, the previous experience was people at the back of the house couldn't hear what was happening.
Yeah.
They didn't want that. So I made sure that room was filled. Back in the breakout rooms, much simpler. A lot of it was, again, conversation. They wanted that. So what they did was have these experts come together to speak about a specific thing, and the attendees were the ones who moved during breakouts. So the speakers stayed in the same room. So that was a simple wireless and just 2 speakers, nothing crazy, just to make sure everyone could hear. I know sometimes, especially in a commute, like when a lot of talking happens, it gets a little bit harder to hear. So we just wanted to make sure that the speakers, the presenters, could amplify themselves a little bit over the crowd noise. But really, that one was kind of simple. The only tricky part with that one was we learned kind of a little bit later in the time, and this goes back to weekly meetings, that the hotel had that room booked the night before. So the breakouts were going to happen at 10 a.m., and we had access to that room at 5:30 a.m. So that was a fun little surprise that we kind of didn't budget for, but we ended up finding a workaround for it to kind of make it work, where we were getting everything in there, stage and all that stuff.
Yeah, and there you go. I think you said it best, is you find a workaround for it. It's like, you know, I think our mentality might be different than others, but when you're on site, you just got to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, like we said, it's a live event. We know things are going to change. We know not problems, but changes will come, unexpected things. And then I just want to talk about, at least from my perspective, I was, you know, sat at the switcher behind the scenes doing iMag on these stages and also recording what was on stage. But from my perspective, I saw a lot of communication, a lot of a lot of teamwork backstage, where you'd come back, you know, I should say also, we were all on comm units, which I think is very important from the AV side.
Yes.
For everyone's back there. A member of their team, the client's team, was on comms with us. So that's a perfect example of partnerships and communications coming together and saying, hey, you know, if you have a change for us, it's not a problem. You just got to let us know. And it's much easier to say, hey, buddy, why don't you just hop on a walkie-talkie on a headset and just tell us that, you know? And it makes everything much easier.
And I mean, even to jump back into that point, like think about the bodies we had.
Yeah.
We're sitting there saying it was a simple AV setup, right?
Right.
It really was mainly PowerPoint. There was probably 5 videos max we had to show sound full.
Over the whole week.
There was a little bit of in-room audio that we'd play when it came to music. Technically, it wasn't supposed to be audience Q&A. A couple curveballs came in, but we knocked them out of the park.
And we love that.
However, it really was a simple AV setup. However, if you think about it, we had 4 bodies that were solely dedicated to just the main room.
Yes.
There was you as the technical director, me as a producer. Well, sorry, there was 5 bodies because I'm forgetting Coleman, our stage manager.
Of course.
We had a stage manager who was also technically the client, but the one who had most of the interactions with the speakers, could tell them where to be and stuff like that.
Micing people up, running chairs on stage.
We had an audio, an A1 audio tech, and we had a camera op, even though we had 2 cameras. And like basically it was setting it up. One was static, widescreen, and the other one was someone zooming in. But that's 4 bodies, 5 technically,
bodies, right?
dedicated to what is really, I mean, at the end of the day, that was somewhat simpler. The backdrops weren't changing. It wasn't an LED wall. It was just a pipe and drape.
Piece of cake.
But that's the thing. A lot of times the in-house AV, it's kind of like, hey, transactional. I'm putting this up here.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that like your power, like I can make sure that your slide's going up there. Maybe I'll have 2 audio techs, just that one can run mics, the other one can sit there, but I'm not like paying attention to all this other stuff. Like, I've seen it where like that same setup has 2 people in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Running audio and the video. And that's where it's important to have people that are dedicated to making that thing work.
Yeah,
and not just people that are there like, hey, I work in this hotel all the time. This is how this works. And I'm not trying to besmirch that. That there's a reason for that type of stuff, and they have all the equipment. It's all there.
Yeah.
But like that's part of the dedication you want as you want to grow your conference, your summit, all these things. You want someone who's there to help, and especially as things change. I mean, the other big thing for us was helping the speakers feel confident.
That's what my next point was going to be, of course. And again, something that the event manager may not think of. We have 12, 20 speakers, whatever, a lot of speakers, and they all have their own individual PowerPoint slides, and some of them want to do this, some want to roll a video, some have walk-up music. There's things that go into each one of those, and it's easy to look at a spreadsheet and say, okay, I have all their emails, and they're all sent the slide deck to us.
Right.
But then, 10 minutes before, while they're getting mic'd up, oh, hey, by the way, I was going to add that can really, not ruin, but throw a curveball into your whole production.
Right. Oh, I mean, I think of all the panel conversations we had, I think maybe 2 of them didn't have an additional person that we weren't planning on.
Oh, exactly, right, yeah.
But I mean, that's the fun stuff of having a producer who kind of can understand that and like get it. Like, yeah, okay, 100%. Like, yeah,
exactly.
This person that you didn't realize was going to be here is going to be here, and they're an awesome voice to have on this session because I think it's going to help, especially kind of keep the audience engaged and really paying attention, or the attendees. So like, that's something that's normal. It happens a lot, and like, as the producer, I want you to be able to have that.
Yeah,
I want that 100%. Up there.
100%.
So those are the things. And then, like you said, like you might have written the greatest email of all time to someone to say, this is what you can expect when you arrive on site. Here's all the things you need to do. And that person just barely read it.
Yeah, they saw like the title line, they saw who it was from, said, all right, got you.
So like as much as you can try to prepare a speaker or presenter to kind of be up to date, that's part of what we were doing. Really, it was a lot of it was the speakers would come back of house or behind the stage. They would meet with us. We would talk to them. We'd make them feel confident. We'd show them if we could, here's what it's going to be. Here's where you're going to enter from. Here's the music. Here's your slides. Let's go through it. Let's make sure everything looks right. Yes, I made a mistake. So if anyone's watching, I did make a big mistake for a keynote. But the keynote was more than understanding for what we were trying to do. And this, again, was back to us trying to accomplish what the client wanted on the budget they wanted.
Exactly,
so
right.
There are definitely ways to improve. There's ways to scale back. When we were even quoting it, we give them a good, better, best, right?
Yeah.
Here's the best. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Cost an arm and a leg. Here's good. There is some stuff that are hiccups and things that could happen. And here's better, like a way that's a little bit there. And again, it's not buying a car. Like we were able to kind of modify it to kind of fit a better, good kind of situation for them. But yeah, I mean, that was sort of, again, back to partnership. That really is what we're trying to do. Like, it's not me just setting up this equipment and like doing it. It's me understanding like, oh yeah, your speakers are going to want to know stuff because I've done this before. I know exactly what speakers are thinking. How do you make a speaker feel confident when they're going up there? It's helping your stage manager know like, okay, I'm going to say this is when you cue the person to walk on stage. So it's not them walking up there.
Yeah.
There's always, I mean, there's not, knock on wood, there shouldn't always be hiccups, but it's also like the understanding, helping your audio tech. Here's who's going to be on what mic, when they're going to be on it. It's helping the technical director. Here's what I want you to show, take video and stuff like that. There's all these things that you can make it run smoother. But again, it comes from prep, it comes from being a partner, and it comes from just wanting to achieve what your client's kind of overall goal is.
But now, now that the conference is in the past, we're in the post-production phase. What are some things that you expected to see coming out of a conference like this, and how are you and the client still a partner in the post-production phase?
Yeah, I mean, you heard it, and I think everyone's more and more experiencing it. As much as the hybrid, the virtual, the COVID experience was, especially with the conferences and stuff like that, people have gotten very used to having video on demand.
100%.
Not just the attendees, but the speakers constantly were asking about. We got asked a lot about streaming, which is one thing I was like, oh, I really wish we were doing streaming.
But it goes back to better, best, good, better, best, whatever it is. If that's something you want to get into, that's a whole different conversation.
And that was something that we did. We talked a little bit about it. It wasn't something that they were hoping for, but just knowing kind of enough conferences at this point, we made sure that we were able to record it. Yes. And then not only after in the post was I able to, every main stage session that we had cameras with, we were able to provide them a switched feed that included the camera and the PowerPoints or all the cameras. We gave them 2 versions of it because they were sponsored. So their kind of main version that has their main sponsor was available. And then I just finished doing the generic versions too. So that way it's just their branding. So down the line, they want to put this up on there and they're like, hey, we got a new title sponsor. We don't want to have this one up. Not that they're doing that or anything like this, but
just in case.
It's just to keep it evergreen.
Exactly.
But that's part of what we were trying to do. How do we capture this stuff? How do we help them for social content? How do we do all that type of stuff? I mean, honestly, we talked more about giving them social, like the full stuff sooner. But I mean, I provided it within a week after the conference, so it's not too crazy. But like we were trying to work on real time, but basically we just kind of started to pivot and be like, no, let's just focus on all these other moving parts that are happening on the stage first. But I mean, that's part of what we were trying to make sure we could accomplish. Like they wanted to get the word out there, create a fear of missing out, or like, oh, dang, I should have been there. Why did I miss this one? You know what? The next one that comes up, I'm going to do it. Yep. In terms of the other conversations we had post, there was lessons learned. I mean, we did a debrief. We talked about, hey, this is what happened. What did you think about the stage? What did you think about that? Do you think it could have been bigger? Do you think about this? What do you think about that? There was a lot of that conversation, and we kind of talked about like, oh, I really liked how the pipe and drape with those lights came on. Yeah. I would have loved like almost like a logo, like a light thing like that. And I was like, yeah, we started talking about gobos. And we're like, eventually you get like a big LED wall and these cool things change and all this. And they're like, yeah, it's something I think we could try to work on. But like it's helping to grow and understand and not just immediately be like, buy the Ferrari. It's like, no, let's learn to drive a little bit. Let's kind of work on this stuff. Let's make sure that we understand what we liked and what we didn't like. I mean, I focused on making sure that that room was filled with audio. Was that too much audio? We try to create different seating setups. And like we talked about that. Of like, hey, do you think that was a little crazy? And like, what if we did this? So, I mean, that's what the post was about. It's kind of talking about what it was. And again, as a partner, learning. Yeah. We made this guess. We went here. We found some hiccups, but we found some deltas. We found some pros. We're going to work through all that stuff because the next one, then we're going to kind of have steps forward. We're always trying to grow as a partner. We're never just like, yeah, we did it. What are you talking about? What's there to talk about? That's where a partner really is important because a partner is the next one.
I was going to say that too is, and it's not a money grabbing, hey, we didn't do the job. It's saying, hey, we did a great job on this one. How can we make it better next year?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, so, I mean, just a couple key points there. Partnership as an umbrella. You have the pre-production. You're working every week with them, meeting on a call, saying, what can we look forward to? How do we, prepare for curveballs? Mm-hmm. On-site, you have someone on their team right by, a dedicated body to everything that could be dedicated to, and communication all day long, all week long. Mm-hmm. And now in post, you're doing debriefs, and you're getting their deliverables to them in a reasonable time, and everyone's happy.
Absolutely.
Anything else kind of to add on a conference like this?
Kansas City, your barbecue wasn't as impressive as I thought it was supposed to be. However, that airport, I was very excited because when I was leaving, it was so early in the morning, but I had this like breakfast burrito bowl and it was amazing. So
delicious.
I'm bummed I didn't get to have it. So I'm still, jury's out for me on the Kansas City barbecue.
That's fair. And me too.
Yeah.
We got to go back.
You got to go back.
If anyone's in Kansas City looking for a job,
Taylor, give us a call.
Yeah, Taylor, Travis, let us know.
Yeah, what up?
That's what's up. But yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Cool, man. I've been Connor from Fauci Productions. This is Kyle signing off for another episode of the Create Smarter podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back next time.